to another truly poorly episode here. Today we're going to be covering the deep and complex inner machinations of the Mario series lore. Now, as you guys know, compared to some of these simple games out there, Mario is a very complicated storyline. People don't usually understand it very well. It's multifaceted in many respects. And so, as part of understanding this game, we've got to go over its lore because, compared to these other series out there, it's really quite complicated. I mean, compared to something like, take Halo, I think people might confuse this story for being, incredibly complicated compared to such a game as that. So, Mario is a medieval fantasy story set in the, long distant past kingdom of the Mushroom Kingdom. It's actually a European placeholder for some of those feudal kingdoms out there, and it's run by this princess and her autocracy, with several toads as her accountants. And this rival kingdom comes in, headed by this fantasy turtle guy. His name's Bowser, I think. And this Bowser kid, he's out here. He's kidnapping people all day, all night. But he has his sights set on this princess, and the reasons they've never been stated, but it's like incredibly complicated, right? And sometimes he wants a wedding. Why does he want a wedding? Is he in love with this princess? We don't know. And it's a really complicated story there because you have to, read in between all these lines being represented by the story and have to understand what the complex motivations are for such a character as Bowser. It's really a very deep and detailed storyline that you would never be able to follow any other way. And the gameplay, this is the brilliance of it. The gameplay really fits in there with the rest of the story. So you can't untie the gameplay from the story here. It has everything to do with it. So all this jumping and stomping on Goombas. I mean, did you know these guys? They're actually the minions of this Bowser, and it's incredibly integral to the plot line of the Mario Bros. Series as they're jumping on them. It's extraordinarily complicated. And if you were to try and play the games without realizing that, you just simply wouldn't be able to get the full experience. You'd never be able to understand it. And so that's just a hint of the complex lore we've got in this series. This is just the first game out of like at least two. And I think that those other ones, just as complicated, just as complex, if not less so than the original. So he starts out in this 2D plane, and the plot literally gets three-dimensional, as the series gets in 3 dimensions. And of course, the plot was already three-dimensional, so this is more of a fourth dimension here, if you really think about it. And if you really start to add on time, then really it's more of a fifth dimension. And if you believe in string theory, it's more of an 11th dimension, but we don't go into all that. Now, as for these other plots, in Mario 64, it's much more complicated. You see, he's doing the same thing, but he's like in her castle. Now, this is a really deep symbology here because he's in the castle. This is like he's inside of her mind. He's inside of the kingdom. It's really this deep symbology of how Bowser plans on, extorting such ideas, such concepts as regnal reign, right? As a princess regent, for the real toadstools behind the whole operation, right? It's really showing how this system is incredibly corrupt and how someone like this turtle guy from another kingdom can come and start changing things up. This is really a deep political commentary on medieval Europe. If you really want to read into that, now of course that is just the surface level of this, There's plenty more, but I just really don't want to discuss that here because it would take at least maybe 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and you can't have that time. So after that you have the next game in the series where they're on vacation, Mario Sunshine. This one's actually extraordinarily simple. I don't know why anyone even likes this game. It's all the story, by the way. Gameplay, that's secondary in a game. Chess. I just can't get behind it, right? Like, what's really going on here with this king and this queen? It's never elaborated on. There's no symbolism in it. You just can't. You can't play a game like that. Now, if we take a look, sometimes they're in space. That one's actually a really deep commentary on the existentialism really inherent in modern society. Mario's pointing out it's just like, you can go all the way to the stars, but we can't solve these, personal problems like the Rosalind's mother being under that tree. You can't solve things like that. It's just, it's a really, you wouldn't get it. It's a really deep symbolism. You wouldn't. But then you got, some other games, like, Mario 3D World, because it's really, the title itself is saying that, 3 dimensions is the entire world, just as the plot line is in, 12 dimensions, right? But, 3D is really saying that our world is more complicated than you really think it is, right? So it's 3D world. It's, it's a really mature take on the series after the original Super Mario World, which was, talking about how there's more than just one kingdom in this universe, really expanding us with the monumental lore. Like, there are dinosaurs in this thing. I mean, how many other games can claim to have, something as deep as a whole history of dinosaurs and like they're still alive too? You can't. There's no other games that do that. It's not possible. Only in a series like this. Only in a series like this. And now, of course, it brings us to, the modern day. There's, Mario Odyssey. It's really, it's a retelling of that Greek epic. From at least a couple years ago. My boy Homer, he couldn't see, of course. It didn't stop him from writing it down, though, in modern English. It was really quite impressive for someone from Greece who's never heard of an England before. But, it was an impressive feat there, and they, it really got me inspired for all these things. And, my boy, he was writing this story, this tale, traveling across the world. And again, with that worldly symbology here, you wouldn't understand, but the Mario is the new Odysseus. That's just how it is. And I will provide no evidence to support this theory, but it is incredibly robust. If you see none of the videos I link, you'll understand it completely. And my favorite of the levels from the game that really just shows off all the lore is this level from is Super Mario 64. It's called Big Boo's Haunt, from Super Mario 64 for the Nintendo 64, for Mario 3D All Stars for the Nintendo Switch. Really brilliant level there. They have Big Boo, and the lore behind that is so immense. He's just a Boo, but he's also very big.